It is our blood!
Vikings Valhalla is a sequel series to the popular show Vikings. It's set roughly 100 years into the future, and the show for the most part takes place around the same general areas as what the previous show had as well. And so there's a lot of similarities. There are some connections made. Not anything major to where you need to watch the old show in order to understand this one, but it does have some nice little callbacks to things that happened with some of the previous characters. Now, this show can be found on Netflix, and I'll go ahead and just kind of say from the beginning that I didn't particularly love this show, but it's not really one that's bad either. My main issue that I had with it was about the storyline that they gave us. It's not that the story wasn't really that bad per se. It just didn't feel really any different than what you get in the other show. And so I was just kind of a little bit disappointed because it didn't feel like anything new. It just kind of felt like the next season of Vikings where they just changed the entire cast. And it's like, well, you should make it a little bit different. Give it something that makes it its own, right? And the show never really was able to do that for me. The other thing that kind of, to me, affected the story is the fact that the show is only 8 episodes long. When you compare that to the fact that the old Vikings show, the earlier seasons were 10 episodes and the later seasons were 20 episodes. So it just feels kind of short, and it doesn't feel like you really get to flesh out as interesting of a story as what you could do with the old ones. And so story-wise, it was somewhat disappointing. The thing that somewhat does save the show, though, is it still is fairly entertaining to watch regarding the actions. Some of the new characters are relatively interesting, and I found myself enjoying learning about their stories and seeing where it was they were going to go. It is, again, very, very similar to the old show. So basically, if you liked what you saw in the old Vikings and you liked the action and everything that they displayed there, there's a good chance that you'll like that in this show as well. It's just that the story and the action being just like what it was before really doesn't warrant this really needing to exist. I don't know if it's going to end up getting a second season, but if it does, I hope that they try and mix things up a little bit and give it a little bit more of its own unique flavor rather than just copying things that have come before. So kind of disappointing there. When it comes to the cleanliness of this show, there are definitely some things that you need to watch out for. First of all, it is about Vikings. There is some violence. There is quite a bit of violence, and it is rather gory at times. Frightening images do make an appearance, not something that's like specifically meant to be like a horror film or anything like that, but just some of the things the Vikings do to each other, the way things are shown after the events. It could be very frightening, especially for those who are younger, which I do not recommend any young people to watch this particular show. And the final thing that you really got to watch out for in this is that there's some sex and nudity. There is some stuff that occurs. It felt a little bit less than the previous Viking shows. I think there was maybe 2 episodes that come to mind that you have to actually look for that stuff. The rest of them were actually clean regarding that, but it is something that you need to keep an eye out for. So those are the things as far as cleanliness that go into this video. But let's go ahead and get into my final thoughts. In the end, Vikings Valhalla is a fairly decent sequel series that lives up to a lot of the expectations set by its predecessor, but doesn't quite add anything that's new or unique to give this show its own flavor, other than perhaps some of the new characters that are very interesting, and some of them do make for a good storylines within the tale. But overall, it just doesn't feel enough like something new or something that I really needed for me to give this an extremely high score. So I'm going to end up giving it a B- when it comes to the show in and of itself. Cleanliness-wise, however, it does follow again in the footsteps of the previous show. It contains a lot of what that does, including the sex and nudity, the violence and gore, some of the frightening images, and all of those things that you expect with this Viking series. And for that purpose, with a cleanliness scale, it is going to get a D+. Definitely not something that I would recommend that younger viewers watch. Also, in total, I really wouldn't recommend this show in general. It's not something that I feel you need to watch. If you were a fan of the old shows, you might find some enjoyment here. Or like me, you might like parts of it, but be kind of disappointed that they didn't do much more. So those were my thoughts on Vikings Valhalla. Have you guys seen it? What did you think about it? Let me know down in the comments. Please be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next video.